sometimes when it cuts in and out and we're not using the best software, when you talk at the same time, it's not the best quality and all that. So with this, when it only records with one, then I'll make sure to shut the hell up and stuff like that. So I was telling Mike, I texted Mike the other day. I was like, when we do it how JR's saying and we record ourselves, I'm like, we can talk at the same time the entire goddamn podcast and not have an issue. But I'm like, when you do it on, Google Meets is not meant for podcasting. It's like entry level. It's great. We use it for work too, so I get it. But like, that's why we did a podcast with like 6-7 guys, and it was horrible. Like, I don't even know if I can use it because 2 of the guys were drinking, 3 of the guys were drinking, so they were just like talking at the same time, and I'm just like, this is good. And then shit
hit the fan.
Oh, it was like lagging. It was just like I could hear it to where I couldn't hear people talking because they were all talking at the same time. I was like, I should have known this was going to be a disaster, but I wanted to just test it out and see how it went. I've got the film. I'll send it to you, and if you think it's something we can salvage, or if there's parts of it we can salvage.
This is the thing where we can talk about, like, use this stuff as teaching tools for your ideology. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's why they always say follow your passion. Whatever drives you, use what you got that makes it go through. Because honestly, at the end of the day, like with me, I love film. At the end of the day, I always love the arts and when I was growing up, I was a very weird kid growing up. So I didn't have like an outlet, and the arts was the only outlet I ever had. I used to go straight to my room and lock myself in the door and just order the VCR, and put the tapes in. And we used to watch. I used to love drawing. So like, I never went.
The old VHS, baby.
Yes, 90s kids. Wait, was it you're like close to 90?
I'm 87, so technically 90s.
You're still 90s. You're still 90s, yeah. Man. You're still 90s. But that's the thing too. Like all that, and that's what I want to encompass when I do my company. It's like I feel like all these traditions.
Well, go ahead and tell them what the company name is, so we can clip it up and stuff like that, and tell them what you do, and tell them how you're helping us. And
okay, well, my company name is Future Evolution Production, and interesting enough about it was the fact is that how it started. It all started as a little kid growing up in a really bad neighborhood that didn't have an outlet or any pursuits or anything to drive him to keep on going for the day. And the weird thing about it is that I realized that I started learning more about myself through art, through entertain. It became entertainment now, but to me, it was art. Like, I used to sit in my room watching VHS movies. That all these movies I used to love. Watching Miss Doubtfire. Watching Men in Black.
Miss Doubtfire was a great one.
And Star Wars. I grew up loving Star Wars because I met my uncle that I didn't know about in Miami. So I met him, and he introduced me to Austin Powers and Star Wars. So every single time I go to class, I was the kid that was the comedian. Like, I was the kid that would just repeat lines because I used to watch movies. And I still to this day watch all movies more than 100 times. I've seen a lot of movies, so much that like I can play it in my screen and do whatever I want, and I can imagine the whole scene in my head. Like that's incredible. And I was that kid, I was that artistic kid that loved and drived, and that would help me with my schoolwork, like, because it would give me something to do, something to something to look forward to, and since I was a little kid, I always wanted to do my own movie. Like, I always wanted to create my own film, like my own Star Wars, my own Lord of the Rings. Like, I was so deep into that sci-fi fantasy that my mom did not realize that I was watching it late at night. So I watched Alien, I watched Frankenstein, I watched Bride of Frankenstein, I watched all the stuff. So like, that's how I was able to watch other things too. And I think this is a very segment to your broadcast, if we ever do this, is that the difference between the way that we grew up in versus the way that kids are growing up now. This is a technological world, whereas we didn't have much to rely on technology. We morally relied on, the insight of, you understand that we were brought in to our great grandparents' era to our parents' era, and then our era, and then now this new era. So we're the last dynasty. You know what I'm saying? After us, there's no one else that knows the old ways. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like actually,
no. It's like the cell phone. You know, remember the cell phones that had nothing on the screen? That's what I try to tell people. Oh yeah, I got a
iPod. Remember the iPod?
Oh my gosh, the iPod. Yeah, I had an iPod photo. So whenever your songs would come up, they'd have like the album picture by
Oh,
it. It
you
was
had
like
the
fucking
fancy. Hey, you had the
yeah.
fancy.
That bitch was like $550, dude. That bitch was
Hey,
550,
I had
and you could have.
scroll.
Oh
You
yeah, yeah,
scroll. Yeah, yeah. And then when
yeah,
you go too fast, you're like, dang it, and you have to scroll.
yeah. Well, that's why the ones that were just the shuffles and shit. I'm like, they don't even have a screen. What the hell? Are we going backwards? I just remember the iPod photo. We got to find a picture of it and post it. It's like a dinosaur thing now. It's like the Nokia phone. But I could have gotten mugged and bashed somebody over the head to get away from them, and that thing would have still played music 24/7. Exactly. I mean, that thing was a brick, dude. I'm not even fucking kidding, dude. It was like that thick. I remember having it, and I'd have to like tuck it in my waistband because you put it in your pocket, and, like pulls your pants down. Like that thing was so heavy. And I remember going and using like LimeWire and Bear Share and all.
And that's how I used to get my free movies, free movies, free everything. Yeah. You know, and this time around, like I pay my dues now, so like I pay for everything now, which is fine because it adds up to all this free stuff that I got from over the years. So
yeah. I'm paying you guys back for everything I stole from you. no, for real, dude. The technology nowadays, that is the cool thing with the technology nowadays. That's why I'm able to do me and Mike and JR is coming on to help us. But that's why we're able to do what we're doing with the training, because 2013, bro, when I got out of graduate school, or I think it was 2012, I got out of graduate school. I moved to Kansas City, and then I decided to move down here, and I had clients that I had to give to people because I was moving.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a good experience with these other trainers I handed them off to, so they wanted to work with me. One of them still trains with me till this day, Ryan. I love Ryan. Ryan H. He's up in I think
you
he's
got
up
a Ryan
in Chicago.
too. You got,
I got another Ryan. Yeah,
I have a Ryan on my end, so that's why.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of Ryans, but this Ryan Herdgren has been with me for 2013. He started online training with me, and I told him, I was like, could you imagine if we didn't have? I mean, that was the first time I got it like an iPhone was in 2013 and stuff like that. And I told him, I was like, could you imagine if we didn't have the technology that we have now? You couldn't do any of this stuff. We couldn't train you online. Like you said, oh, I can record in 4K. I mean, goddamn, like before it used to be like, what was it? It was like 720 is the lower one that's still high, but then there's like 580 and or 420 and like 180. I mean, it gets to garbage where it's like pixelated. So it's so awesome with how it's came around.
The fact is that we are privileged now, and kids are so privileged because they have streaming service now. Because remember, we had to wait a week or sometimes a month to see our favorite episode appear on television, and then there's no bathroom breaks. You can't have a bathroom break, or you can't.
You better have a bathroom break on a commercial.
On commercial, yeah. And